Doctor uncovers heartwarming secret in wife's ultrasound. One millionaire's life-changing choice. Dr. Tom Reynolds stood in the fluorescent light of the ultrasound room, a mix of exhilaration and anxiety bubbling inside him. Today, he would catch a glimpse of his future, his first child with Rachel, the love of his life. He could almost feel the heartbeat vibrating in his chest, a rhythm that echoed the hope of new beginnings. Rachel squeezed his hand, her eyes sparkling like sunlight on water. Tom couldn't help but smile, thinking of ragged edges of diapers, late-night feedings, and giggles that would soon fill their home. The technician smiled back, her eyes glancing between the screen and the couple. "Okay, let's take a look." The machine whirred, images flickered, first one tiny being, then another. Twins! Tom's heart leaped like a child's on a swing, filled with pure joy. "Twins!" he exclaimed, the word bursting out like confetti, but just as quickly, elation turned to ice. The technician's expression changed. Concern etched into her brow as she focused closely on the screen. "There's something we need to discuss," she said softly. Anxiety knotted Tom's stomach into a tight ball. "There's a possibility that one of your babies may have a genetic condition." His world spun, as if standing on a tightrope above a deep abyss. His children, his flesh and blood, facing challenges even before they were born. Thoughts of doctor bills, insurance battles, and the daunting weight of responsibility crashed like waves against his heart. He dedicated his life to caring for others, yet here he sat, facing a storm that felt insurmountable. Days went by, tangled in worry. Just then, Tom received a life-altering phone call. His estranged brother, Alex, the CEO with a bank account the size of his dreams, was launching a charitable foundation. Alex's voice was smooth, rehearsed, but behind it lurked the familiar tension of their complex relationship. "You know, Tom, I could help with." "No." The word slipped out before he could contain it. For years, Tom had built his life on hard work, on the very values that Alex had seemingly abandoned for wealth. They represented two worlds so starkly different that it felt like they spoke a different language. Yet the thought of his kids, his desire to protect them, made him pause. He needed to remove pride from the equation and confront deep-seated resentment. Could he really accept help from someone he felt had chosen the easy path? Before he could spiral further, Rachel interrupted his thoughts. "Tom, there's something I need to share." The air in the room snapped tight like a rubber band. This conversation could alter everything, perhaps even mend what was broken in their family. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tom felt a chill blanket his arms, and then it came. The moment where everything could change. Would Rachel's secret bring them closer together or fracture their family further? He didn't know, but he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. Tom held his breath, the silence stretching like an elastic band, ready to snap. Rachel's hands trembled slightly as she looked deep into his eyes. He could see a storm brewing behind her calm exterior, and he braced himself for impact. "Tom, I've been trying to find the right time to tell you. I just didn't know how." Her voice quivered, pulling him in closer, each word feeling like a thread being woven into the fabric of their shared lives. "I had a blood test done in the early weeks, and the results showed something significant." His heart raced. "What do you mean?" The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, but all he could hear was the rush of his own blood pounding in his ears. Rachel inhaled deeply, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I'm a carrier for that genetic condition." Tom's stomach plummeted. The word carrier hung heavy between them, like an anchor threatening to drag them into deep waters. If Rachel was a carrier, then there was a higher risk for their babies, the twins, their future. His hands fell to his sides, the warmth of their connection suddenly feeling cold and distant. I don't understand," he managed. "What does this mean for our children?" "It means we need to be prepared. The testing also showed that there could be serious implications for one of them," she said softly. "But it's not definite. We'll have to consult a specialist." Tom closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on him. All those dreams of joy and laughter, now twisted with uncertainty. But there was also a glimmer of something else. Could they face this challenge together? Rachel squeezed his hand tighter, as if sensing the flicker of his resolve. "I want to do this together, Tom.
not separately like our families. It's time to reach out. If we need to talk to Alex for help, we should. Her words pierced through his fog of anxiety. This was more than just a conversation about genetics. It was about family, about healing old wounds. Tom's chest tightened. Accepting help from Alex felt monumental. He had spent so many years building walls between them, yet here was Rachel urging him to break through. What if Alex only wants to help for his own reasons? Tom voiced the fear lurking in the back of his mind. Maybe, but this can't just be about ego anymore. We have to be parents first. We owe it to our children.
She brushed away a tear that threatened to spill over, her eyes shining bright with determination. Tom leaned back, their fingers still intertwined. You're right. It's not about us. It's about them. He could already feel a shift inside him. Would it be enough to push aside the anger and betrayal? Would reaching out to Alex mark the beginning of mending the past? Let's talk to him, Tom finally said, his voice steadier. For the kids. A mixture of relief and hope washed over Rachel's face. She drew him into an embrace, and it felt like the world outside faded momentarily. But in the back of Tom's mind, doubt still loomed. Could this really be the bridge they needed to repair their fractured family? What if Alex had moved on without him? As they broke apart, the uncertainty hung heavy. When will we call him? Tom asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Right now, Rachel replied. Tom nodded, heart racing again, not just from fear, but from hope. He took a deep breath, feeling the urgency of the moment. How many choices could define a family? And in that instant, as he reached for his phone, Tom wondered, could this conversation ultimately unravel everything he thought he knew about love, family, and forgiveness? Tom's fingers hovered over the screen, the home button faintly glowing under his touch. A cacophony of emotions churned within him. He hadn't expected this conversation to twist so deeply into their lives. It felt surreal, almost as if he was acting in a play, each line scripted while the audience held its collective breath. Do you have his number? He asked, his voice steady despite the hurricane of thoughts swirling in his mind. Rachel nodded, her expression a blend of excitement and fear. It was a delicate mixture, one that mirrored his own feelings. Yeah, just give me a second. She pulled out her phone, her hands moving quickly, as if every second mattered. When she found Alex's contact and pressed dial, the tension between them thickened. They waited, hearts pounding, as the phone rang. Each tone felt like a countdown, and Tom wished he could fast-forward time to skip the nervous anticipation altogether. The thought of reaching out to Alex was as daunting as it was necessary. Come on, pick up, Rachel murmured under her breath. Then, it happened. Hello? Tom felt a jolt at the sound of his brother's voice. It hit him like a tidal wave, remembering the years apart, the anger, the unspoken words, the rift that seemed impossible to heal. Hey, Alex, Rachel spoke, her tone sharp and clear. It's Rachel. We need to talk. Rachel? Alex replied, surprise lacing his voice. What's going on? Rachel glanced briefly at Tom, her eyes silent encouragement. It's about the twins. There's something important. The air thickened, a shared breath between the three of them, connecting them despite the distance that years had carved. I'm listening, Alex said cautiously. We've found out some news, she continued, her voice trembling but strong. I'm a carrier for a genetic condition, and it could affect one of them. The silence on the other end was tangible. Tom could almost feel Alex processing the information, years of resentment tumbling down like a house of cards. What does that mean? Alex finally asked, concern lacing his voice. Tom appreciated his brother's immediate response, an instinct to care despite the lingering task. That we need advice from someone with experience, Rachel replied, and we think you might be able to help. Tom held his breath, every word hanging between them more crucial than the last. Help? Alex echoed. What are you asking? A chill ran through Tom, but Rachel pressed on. We'd like to meet you, talk things through. It's not just about us anymore. It's about our kids. They deserve that much. Alex sighed heavily. Okay, let's set something up. I want to be there for you both, for the kids. When can we meet? Tom's heart swelled at the shift in their dynamic, at the possibility of uprooting the bitterness that had settled like dust between them. How about tomorrow? Tom spoke, surprising even himself. Tomorrow works, Alex agreed, a hint of relief breaking through. Tom felt a little spark of hope ignite inside him.
Could this be the moment they began to heal? Could this actually turn into a new beginning for their fractured family? As they hung up, a weight lifted slightly off Tom's shoulders. They might not have been whole yet, but at least they were moving forward. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked, her voice soft. "Yeah," he replied, surprised by the sincerity in his own tone. I think we just took a huge step." They shared a moment of silence, a soft, shared understanding that bound them together tighter than ever before. But doubt flickered at the edges of Tom's mind, whispering shadows of uncertainty. Could Alex truly be trusted? "It feels different, doesn't it?" Rachel said, mirroring his thoughts as they stood hand in hand. But just as a smile began to bloom on Tom's face, a new thought invaded his mind. "What if we're not ready for the truth?" he whispered, fear creeping back in. And as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows behind them, Tom wondered how many truths could shatter or unite them in their quest to break the cycle. What would happen when they faced their past? Would it draw them closer or pull them apart for good? The next day dawned with a muted gray sky, heavy with the promise of rain. Tom woke early, a restless night playing back in his mind like a reel of old film. He could feel Rachel's warmth beside him, but the thought of the meeting with Alex made his heart race like it was still trapped in that swirling storm from the day before. He slid out of bed, careful not to disturb her, and made his way to the kitchen. The aroma of brewing coffee filled the air, grounding him even as his thoughts threatened spiral.
What would Alex say? Would he really show up? The doubt clawed at him, but the weight of potential reconciliation felt significant enough to drown out those fears. As he sipped his coffee, he glanced at the clock. They had agreed to meet at a small diner at noon. The place had always been a favorite of theirs, a quaint spot filled with color, laughter, and the mouth-watering scent of breakfast. It seemed almost fitting to return there, where memories had been made, both good and bad. Rachel came into the kitchen, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. "Hey," she said, her voice still groggy. "Are you nervous?" "Yeah, a little." He hesitated, considering how to put his feelings into words. I hope it goes well. I mean, it's been so long." She smiled gently, moving closer to him. "We're ready for this, Tom. You've spent years trying to understand that rift. Maybe this is the step to healing it." He nodded, her reassurance wrapping around his uncertainties like a warm blanket. Yet, as they finished breakfast, the moment lingered like the lingering scent of coffee, comforting but bittersweet. Time sped by, and soon they were driving through town. The familiar sights passed in a blur, yet each landmark struck a chord in him, a history of laughter, shared struggles, and that ever-present shadow of division. When they arrived at the diner, Tom's stomach twisted in knots. The neon sign buzzed, lights flickering like his nerves. He stepped out of the car, taking a deep breath before heading inside with Rachel at his side. The diner was bustling. Familiar faces surrounded them, lost in their own worlds, unaware of the emotional turbulence roiling just beneath the surface for Tom and Rachel. They grabbed a booth toward the back, a place that felt secure. As they sat, Tom's gaze flickered toward the window. He caught sight of Alex walking towards the entrance. It was as if he could feel the energy shift. So much history was wrapped up in those steps. Years lost, neglected truths, unhealed wounds. "Here goes nothing," Tom muttered under his breath. Alex entered, scanning the room until his eyes landed on them. The tension was palpable, and their gazes locked, a sort of magnetic pull. Alex's expression was cautious, yet Tom noticed a glimmer of something else. Perhaps a kindred hope or a willingness to connect. "Hey," Alex said, sliding into the booth across them. "Thanks for meeting me." "Of course," Rachel replied, her voice smooth but laced with anticipation. An awkward silence followed, filled only by the clinking of dishes and low murmurs. Tom felt the weight of years pressing down on them. "Rachel, you said it was important." Alex finally broke the stillness, his voice barely above a whisper. Tom nodded, the words caught in his throat. This was the moment. The door to a long-awaited conversation stood wide open. But would they walk through? Rachel took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with emotion. "It's about the twins. We need your help." Tom felt a rush of adrenaline as his brother leaned forward, eyes widening in concern. This could be everything they needed. But first, are you willing to let the past be the past? Tom finally asked, his heart racing. Alex paused, then nodded slowly. The air shifted again, anticipation crackling like static electricity between them. And in that moment, as they prepared to unearth the truths buried within their shared history, Tom wondered, would this truly be a new beginning, or would it lead them further down a path of uncertainty? The answer hung in the air, fragile like a thin thread waiting to snap. Tom felt his pulse quicken as Alex nodded. A silent promise echoed in that small gesture. The world outside faded away, vibrant conversations and laughter blending into a distant hum. It was just the three of them, hearts bared and raw, ready to delve into uncharted waters. "Why now?" Alex asked, his voice steadier than Tom expected. "What changed?" Rachel exchanged a glance with Tom, her eyes reflecting the complexity of their shared journey. "We've been thinking about the future, about how important family is. We believe the twins deserve to know their whole story, and you're a part of that." Alex's brow furrowed as he processed her words. Memories flashed in Tom's mind. Summers spent together, laughter carried on the breeze, the wedge that had formed until they barely recognized each other. "If they're going to have any connection to their roots," Rachel continued softly, "they should know you. We shouldn't let the past keep us apart." "Why should I care?" Alex's voice was sharpened, like a blade cutting through tension. "You need my help for something that's not even my fault." Tom could feel the heat in his chest rising. Alex's defense was palpable. This wasn't just about the twins. It was about them, their broken ties, and the anger that had long since become inertia. With every word, he felt the urge to defend Rachel's sentiment, but also understood the pain lurking beneath Alex's harshness. "Because family matters," Tom said, his voice firm yet gentle. "It's complicated, I get it, but there's still a connection despite everything we've lost. We all want better." Alex's gaze shifted, emotion flickering as he was struggling with his own ghosts. The air turned heavy again, filled with unspoken words that needed to be released. The smiles and laughter of other diners felt like an intrusion. "Maybe it's too late for that," Alex murmured, his defiance cracking slightly. "No, it's not," Rachel replied, her voice steady. "You're here, aren't you? This is a step. We're not asking for miracles. We're asking for honesty." The silence that followed felt like a breath held too long. I watched Alex, searching the familiar contours of his brother's face, hope battling with fear lurking in the corners of his heart. Finally, Alex leaned back, crossing his arms. "Okay, so what do you want from me? Just tell me what you need." Tom felt a flicker of relief, a spark igniting in the cavern of uncertainty that had taken root. "We need you to show up, to be there for them, to help us mend these wounds, for everyone's sake." Alex shifted again, vulnerability breaking through his bravado as he glanced toward the window. The rain had started, pattering softly against the glass, a whimsical rhythm marking time. "I've been gone for so long. What if I'm not what they need?" "You'll never know if you don't try," Rachel said quietly, leaning forward. "No one's perfect, Alex. We just have to be willing to take the risk." The weight of her words hung in the air, profound and true. Tom could feel a shift, like the clouds parting just enough for light to seep through. This was their moment, one to grasp tightly and mold. "Maybe I need to come by," Alex finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it's going to take time." "That's fine," Tom replied, nodding, his heart swelling with cautious hope. "Just promise us that you'll try." They all fell silent, heartbeats synchronized in a moment of unity, a fragile truce being forged right there in that busy diner. Outside, the rain intensified, but inside their small booth, it felt like the clouds began to part. As they settled into this new understanding, Tom's thoughts turned toward the twins again. Would this be enough for them, to have their family take a step toward healing? Rachel's hand grazed his, a grounding presence amidst the uncertainty. "We need to think about how to introduce this to them, too." Just then, the bell above the diner entrance tinkled again. Tom glanced up, sensing a new presence in the room. A little girl, her hair in two messy pigtails, peered from the doorway, a bright smile plastered across her face. "Mommy, can we sit with Grandma? She has cookies." The scene blurred around them as Tom felt a sudden jolt. He realized the child looked just like Rachel's twin sister. What did it mean for their own twins? "Maybe it's all connected," Tom muttered, unable to shake the feeling that something more awaited them. With hearts already racing, they were about to uncover layers they hadn't considered before, and as that little girl walked closer, Tom felt a spark of hope ignite once more. What incredible truths were waiting to be discovered? Tom watched as the little girl approached, her giggles breaking the tension that had settled between them like an unwelcome guest.
She was radiant, an embodiment of innocent joy, and her smile seemed to dance around the room. A part of him couldn't help but feel drawn in, natural curiosity tugging at his heart. "Who is that?" Alex asked, his voice a low murmur that cut through the buzzing atmosphere of the diner. "That's Leela," Rachel replied, her expression softening as she turned to watch the girl. "She's my sister's daughter." Suddenly, the world felt both expansive and minuscule.
The connections between them seemed to tighten, like the intricate vines of a garden, promising new blooms in their shared family history. "Her mom, she's been going through a lot lately," Rachel added, glancing at Tom. Lila waved enthusiastically, her small hand lifted high as she spotted her mother at a corner table, entirely oblivious to the weighty conversation swirling behind her. It struck Tom then how life had the ability to stitch their stories together, even through shadows. He remembered how laughter and cookies had always been the bridge to understanding in his own childhood. "Mommy, can we go sit with Grandma, please?" Her voice was high-pitched, filled with eagerness. Rachel chuckled, the sound lighter than air. "How could I say no to that?" "Absolutely," Tom affirmed, a smile breaking across his face. In this moment, he saw a glimpse of what could be. A family gathered, stories shared over cookies, laughter flowing freely. The thought felt like a warm sunbeam on a chilly day. "Maybe we should all go talk to her," he suggested gently. "Would it be okay?" Alex asked, his eyes searching Tom's, uncertainty flickering there like a candle in the wind. "Let's do it," Rachel chimed in, her enthusiasm cutting through the tension. "It'll be good for all of us." As they stood and walked towards the girl, Tom felt his heart beating a little bit quicker, excitement pulsing through him. He stole a glance at Alex, who was watching Leela, his expression shifting slowly. There was intrigue there, maybe a touch of warmth peeking through the cracks of his guarded facade. "Hi, Leela, how's it going?" Rachel leaned down, meeting the girl at eye level as they approached the table. A moment later, she continued, "Did you have a fun day with Grandma?" "Oh yes, we made sugar cookies. They're the best," Leela exclaimed, eyes sparkling. "Sugar cookies, huh?" Tom chuckled, kneeling beside her, trying to wrap himself in her energy. "I love those. Do you think you could share some with us?" "Of course, but I have to save some for Mommy," Leela declared, her little fists clenching in determination. Tom looked up to find Rachel and Alex already speaking softly, exchanging tentative smiles. It was such a small thing, a bit of laughter, a moment with Leela, but here he saw light breaking in, the potential for something profound to flourish from these tiny connections. As they settled into their seats, the conversations began to flow easily, laughter filling the gaps where silence had once taken root. Conversations that might have been stilted before now flowed as naturally as the rain outside. Stories of childhood, of sibling rivalries, and those sweet moments long forgotten surfaced. But amidst this newfound warmth, Tom sensed an underlying issue lurking in Alex's eyes. Something unspoken was ready to rise to the surface. Leela nestled into a booth, already lost in a play-acting game of being a cookie baker, while their group grew quiet once more. "What is it, Alex?" Tom asked, careful in his tone. "You seem a million miles away." Alex hesitated, eyes darting to Lila, then back at Tom. "It's just being around family again. It stirs up a lot. I keep thinking about what I missed, and if I can really be a part of this." "Be a part of this," Rachel echoed softly, her hand brushing against his. "We all want that. You don't have to face it alone." Tom nodded, urging his brother with his gaze. Inside, he felt this heavy knot of anticipation. Would Alex lean into this moment, embrace the messy web of family yet again, carving a path forward? The unfulfilled spaces in their stories echoed wider now, ready for truth to fill them. "Yeah," Alex finally whispered. "I guess confronting the past is the only way to move forward, right?" "Exactly," Tom affirmed. "And the twins? They're worth it." As they spoke, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that this new connection with Lila and deeper talks about their family could unlock something unimaginable. Just as he aligned his thoughts, a voice rang out from the diner's entrance once more. A tall man with familiar features and a confident stride stepped through the door. "Rachel, I've been looking for you." His beaming smile clashed with Tom's racing heart. What was this twist? Who was he? And how would this new presence change everything they just started to build? Tom's heart raced as he faced the tall man, the air around them thick with a sudden tension. The stranger's smile was broad and confident, but Tom's gut twisted at the sight. Who was this guy? The familiarity in his features sparked an instinctive unease. He felt like he was being pulled into a storm against his will. "David!" Rachel exclaimed, the surprise illuminating her eyes. She rose from her seat, a mix of excitement and apprehension playing across her face. "What are you doing here?"
Thought I'd come see my favorite sister, David laughed, his voice booming with an infectious energy that felt out of place given the delicate atmosphere. He swept Rachel into a tight embrace, lifting her slightly off the ground. Tom exchanged an uneasy glance with Alex, who looked equally bewildered. Rachel's expression shifted, revealing layers of emotion that seemed to clash within her. It was almost as if the warmth David exuded was competing with the wind that had enveloped their moment just moments ago. Hi, Tom ventured, deliberately keeping his voice steady as David finally turned his attention toward him and Alex. I'm Tom. Rachel's been talking about you two. David's enthusiasm was palpable. He extended a hand to both of them in quick succession, his grip firm. Tom forced a smile. Yeah, we've been catching up. David, Alex cut in, his voice sharper than intended. The question hung heavily in the air as David artfully deflected. I had some meetings, he replied casually, like he was discussing the weather.
But I couldn't miss an opportunity to catch up with family. He motioned toward Lila, who was still happily absorbed in her imaginary baking. And, of course, I had to see my lovely niece. Tom couldn't shake off the feeling that David's presence threatened to unravel what they had just begun to stitch together. The warmth that had cloaked their table was now clouded with uncertainty. Rachel seemed to sense the shift, her smile faltering slightly. It's good to have family back together, right? She said, her tone attempting to bring a sense of normalcy to the swirling mist of tension. Absolutely, David fired back. Nothing quite like family. But there was something in his eyes, a glimmer of mischief that sent alarm bells ringing in Tom's mind. As Lila approached David, the little girl's cheerful energy was infectious. Uncle David, we made sugar cookies, she declared, reaching for his hand with the simple trust only a child could muster. Did you really? David knelt to her level. His demeanor shifted to that of an attentive uncle. I hope there are plenty left. I can always count on you to help Grandma in the kitchen. Tom's chest tightened. How could he trust someone who slipped so easily into this warm, familial role? The distance he had just begun to bridge with Rachel and Alex felt threatened by this new dynamic. He could see Alex's tension too, his fingers tapping restlessly against the table. Hey, David, he called, suddenly feeling bold. What do you do for work? Me? I'm in real estate. High-end stuff, David said, straightening up. Well, when I'm not chasing after my sister's adorable kid. He chuckled, but for Tom and Alex, the words hit like a heavy weight. Rachel, caught in the balance, glanced between them as if she was navigating a minefield. Tom and Alex are starting to explore some new opportunities of their own, she stepped in, lightening the mood with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Sensing the fragility in the moment, Tom struggled to maintain his composure. Yeah, it's a work in progress. Exciting stuff, David exclaimed, his enthusiasm high. But Tom felt the pressure mounting, the sense that whatever bond they had started to intertwine was suddenly fragile. Lila interrupted, oblivious to the tension, swirling in pure joy. Uncle David, can you help me make cookies now, please? Sure thing, kiddo. David stood up, brushing off the moment as he followed Lila, an easy smile on his face. As the laughter flared and the scene shifted, Tom couldn't help but feel that the deeper truth remained buried among them. The reunions and chatter masked the underlying emotions that needed to be addressed. And just as things began to settle back into a routine semblance of family, Tom's phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a notification, a name he thought he would never see again. His heart dropped. Why now? As he stared at the screen, a familiar dread washed over him. What did this mean for the fragile unity they were beginning to weave? What other secrets lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to spill into the light? Tom's fingers trembled as he stared at the name on his screen. It felt like a ghost from his past, one he had hoped to bury beneath layers of new memories. With each beat of his heart, panic threatened to spread, squeezing the room tight. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Hey, you okay? Alex asked, noticing Tom's sudden stillness. His friend leaned in, concern etching his brow. Rachel looked over too, her smile faltering as her gaze shifted from Tom to the phone in his hand. Yeah, I need to take this, Tom managed, his voice shaky. He slipped away from the table, the laughter and chatter of the family fading into a muted hum behind him. Each step toward the quiet corner of the kitchen felt like an escalation of the tension wrapped around him. As he pressed the button to answer, his mind swirled with questions. Why now? What could they want? His pulse quickened in anticipation. Tom? The voice was as familiar as the name that had just flashed on his screen. Distorted but unmistakable, it cut right through him, layering his emotions in conflicting confusion. Yeah, it's me, he replied, the weight in his voice unmistakable.
I know it's been a while, the voice continued, hesitant, as if searching for the right words. I didn't mean to just appear in your life again, but I really think we need to talk. Talk? About what? Tom clenched his jaw, the urge to hang up rising. After everything, how could someone just slide back into his life? I'm back in town for a reason, and it concerns you. Tom's heart sank. Memories flashed, a whirlwind of feelings, the laughter that should have been soothing, but now seems suffocating. You've got a lot of nerve calling me now, he shot back, a part of him wanting to close off any emotional breach. I know, but please just hear me out. If we don't address this, it can ruin everything. The last word hung in the air, poised with an ominous gravity that sent chills down his spine. Before he could respond, a voice from behind startled him. It was Rachel, her eyes filled with concern. Tom, what's wrong? He quickly glanced back at her, battling the urge to let his guard down. It's nothing, he said, but the heaviness of his heart betrayed him. Is it about David? She pressed, her concern deepening as if sensing the underlying tension. No, it's just, I'll be there in a minute. He turned back to the call, feeling the space between him and his past closing in. I'll think about it, he finally said, before abruptly hanging up. The kitchen felt smaller now, the air heavy as Rachel's eyes searched his. Tom, please tell me you're okay. This isn't like you. I'm fine. Really. The words tasted bitter on his tongue. He wanted to protect her, to shield her from what was swirling inside him.
But the truth was he wasn't sure how to untangle the mess, both within himself and around them. As he walked back to the table, he could see Lila and David sharing flower-covered giggles, their bond momentarily illuminating the dark crease forming in his heart. But shadows loomed larger than joy, replaying the conversation in his mind. What did it mean for their fragile family? What secret had lain dormant, ready to tear at the seams? In that moment, as he sat down beside Rachel again, the weight of uncertainty pressed heavier. Each chuckle and playful exchange felt distant, like each laugh echoed from within a tunnel that twisted around secrets. What if this was just the beginning? Just as the thought settled, Tom's phone buzzed again. He glanced down, dread pooling in his stomach. A text from the same name. Can we meet tonight? It's important. A shiver ran down his spine. Did he have the strength to confront the past? With his breath hitched in his throat, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that whatever he faced next would change everything, all over again. Tom sat stiffly at the table, the laughter around him like a distant echo. Rachel laughed at something David said, and he forced a smile to fit in with the facade of joy. But his mind was racing. All he could think about was that message, an undeniable kick to the gut, dragging all his past fears into the present. How could he face this, especially tonight? His fingers brushed the screen again, weighing his options like stones in his palm. The vibrant chaos of the kitchen faded, and all that existed was the cold dread resting in his stomach. Hey Tom, you good? Alex's question pulled him out of his spiral. Concern edged into his friend's eyes, mirroring Rachel's worry. Yeah, I just need a minute, Tom replied, hoping it sounded more convincing than he felt. He stood and made his way back to the corner. The vibe of the room felt electric, buzzing with unspoken thoughts. The urge to just run was overwhelming, to escape this moment, this reality. But running from what? The inevitable conversation? The past that seemed ready to reclaim him with the flick of a switch? He couldn't hide anymore, especially not from Rachel and the kids. Taking a deep breath, Tom texted back. What time? Where? His heart raced at every silent moment before the reply came. 8 p.m., the park. Tom's hand shook as he set down his phone. The park, their spot, their past. Memories of laughter and love, but also heartache and loss. It felt far too loaded now, like a powder keg of unresolved tension. What's wrong? Rachel's voice broke through again, seemingly able to sense his turmoil. Nothing, he said sharp, his tone betraying him. I saw Rachel's shoulders tense. Just a headache, he added quickly, hoping to soften her worry. Let me know if you need anything. Her voice shone with gentle concern, and it made Tom's heart ache. Yeah, don't worry, he smiled, but it was strained. The tightness in his throat and the weight on his chest only grew heavier. As the evening wore on, he found himself replaying that conversation, every word like a stone cut into the fabric of their life. What would it mean if he went? Would Rachel understand? Would it open a door that was meant to stay closed?
Tom, we need help with dessert,
Leela's voice called, the innocence of her giggle slicing through his thoughts. He turned, and for a moment it felt like everything might be okay. He walked over to the kids, forcing himself to focus on them, on their laughter and bright futures. Could he betray that happiness? The possibility of a shattered family loomed with every second passing. As sugary whipped cream swirled on the cake, he watched Leela's eyes light up. But the shadows circled back. The past was relentless, refusing to let go. As the clock ticked closer to 8 p.m., Tom's heart pounded with uncertainty. What if this meeting would open a floodgate? Would he be the one to tip the scales? Or would everything spiral out of control? He ran a hand through his hair, feeling the tension tighten around him. "Hey, you okay, Tom?" Rachel's voice broke through once more, concern shadowing her features. "I'll be fine," he said, but it felt like a lie. The clock kept ticking, and with it, the urgency swelled. As the hour approached, he caught a glimpse of the kids playing, their laughter ringing in his ears like a haunting melody. Suddenly, Tom felt paralyzed by the decision looming ahead. Did he owe it to himself to confront it? With a final glance at Rachel, who was still watching him with those unwavering, caring eyes, he slowly made his way towards the door. "Tom," Rachel called again, but he didn't stop. Each step felt heavy. He paused just outside the door, holding his breath. Could he truly face what was waiting for him? His heart raced as he stepped into the darkness beyond. The park awaited, but so did the ghosts of his past. Would they allow him to walk away once more, or would he find something unexpected lurking in the shadows?
A shared history hovered between them, thick and tangible. "Hey," Tom managed, his voice barely breaking through the cool night air. "Hey," Alex replied, his tone laced with an awkward mixture of familiarity and distance. "Thanks for coming." Silence hung heavy between them, echoing the years of unresolved tension. Tom looked up at the stars, trying to find clarity in their twinkling vastness. "What's so important?" he asked, the irritation creeping into his tone. "You said it concerns me." Alex shifted, his face illuminated by the pale glow. "It does. It's about the family, the twins. I think we need to talk about how we can help." The mention of the twins hit Tom like a surge of hope and dread. "You've had years to decide whether you wanted to be a part of this," he replied, trying to keep his emotions in check. "You can't just waltz back in and—" "It's not like that," Alex interrupted, urgent and intense. "I've thought long and hard about the distance and the mistakes. I want to be here for them. I want to help." Tom's heart raced. "Help how? By swooping in now, acting like everything's fine? You can't just curate your role when it suits you, Alex." "Well, what do you want from me then?" Alex's voice reverberated in the stillness. "I'm not here to take on your burden, but help lighten it." Sudden clarity pierced through Tom's frustration. He still felt the sting of betrayal, but realized they were both bound by the same intent, to protect the twins, to mend their family. "I want honesty," he said firmly. "I want you to show up, truly, not just an occasional uncle." Alex pinched the bridge of his nose, breathing deeply as if grappling with his unsteady emotions. "Okay, how about this? I will be there for them. School events, birthdays, whatever they need. Just give me the chance to make it real this time." Tom's heart softened at Alex's vulnerability. It tremored against the weight of the past, yearning for some semblance of a fresh start. "You mean it?" he asked, his voice quieting. "This isn't going to be just lip service?" "Look, I messed up big time, and I know that. But I want a relationship with my brother and the twins. I've lost enough time," Alex confessed, his voice steadier now. The sincerity struck a chord within Tom. The door opened slightly to the idea of forgiveness. "Then let's start with one step at a time. Meet them. Just get to know them." Alex nodded, the tight lines of his face softening. "I'll do that. I promise." Relief washed over Tom. He realized maybe their past could support a bridge to the future. "Then let's figure this out, together." And with that, something shifted. A monumental crack in the weighty silence expanded as they both took a breath rooted in unity, a promise forged in intention. As they walked out of the park, Tom felt lighter. For the first time in a long while, he sensed the warmth of hope. A connection was beginning to sprout, fragile yet resilient.
Later that night, in the comfort of his home, surrounded by the laughter of Rachel and Lila, Tom felt a renewed sense of purpose. He turned to Rachel, who met his gaze with an encouraging smile, radiant and full of warmth.
Everything okay? She asked, her voice gentle. Yeah, he confirmed, hope weaving through his words. Things are different now. Alex is ready to make this work. She broke into a smile, her joy filling the room. It echoed in every crevice, radiating like sunshine through the clouds. For the first time, Tom felt that he could embrace the complexities of family, the pain, the love, and everything in between. See, Rachel said, reaching for his hand, it's never too late for a new beginning. Tom squeezed her hand, gratitude washing over him as Lila's bubbly laughter filled the air. In that moment, he saw their future, vibrant and alive, each thread of their family woven with choices of trust and understanding. As they gathered around the kitchen table, sharing stories and cookies, Tom realized that moments like these were the building blocks of family, transformative, precious, and omnipresent. Life was full of unexpected turns, but in this moment, he felt ready to face whatever came next, together. If you've been inspired by this journey, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and help others find this heartwarming tale. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative story. You need to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.